Hello everybody, hope you're doing well, and today I'm going to be doing part H of my CD collection. So, first off, I need to address a few things. Well, I think if you joined me on my previous part, you would know that I had a little incident. Alright, oh, shit. No! Ghost, no! Yeah, it's still there. So, what I'm going to do for future parts is I'm probably going to put like a flannel or just something that'll cover up the back. I mean, I like to put records which have artists or bands that begin with the letter of whatever I'm covering in the video, so I'd like to keep that going. So for now though, I have this Hellhammer patch, which I think goes on like a jacket or maybe a bag of some sort. So I'm gonna attach it to the back here. So, and if it falls, it doesn't matter because, you know, that's pretty easy to pick up, but a bit of vinyl isn't very easy. So I've put a bit blue tack on the back here, so if it doesn't stick up, I tried, that's the main thing. Here we go. You ready? This will look good. There's the chair bit. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah. Nice one. Anyways, so another thing I'd like to address is I have links to not only my Instagram, which you can feel free to check out. Doesn't really have too much to do with music, but if you'd like to see a bit more of me, you can see it there. And I've also linked my Rate Your Music account too. I'm not very active on it in terms of writing reviews or ratings. It's just, I don't know, not really something that I'm doing at the moment, but I've got plenty of old reviews and old ratings that you can check out just in case you ever wanted to know my but just general music taste on top of the CDs that I cover here, as well as just obviously putting 4.5s, 5 stars on certain albums, so you know what my personal favourites are too. So both the Rate Music account link and the Instagram link is on my channel banner if you go on the actual channel page of my account. So, alright, nice one. Black Lives Matter. Sorry for all of you who are in America who are going through a really shitty time. Yep. Not much I can say apart from that. So, on that light note, I'm going to be covering H, and I've got a few artists and just people that I'll be covering here that I'm looking forward to talking about, specifically this artist. The artist I'm referring to is Neil Hamburger. Who the hell is Neil Hamburger, you're asking yourself? Well, he's a comedian technically. I say technically because not only is it a character played by Greg Turkington, but I'm saying technically a comedian as well because I can guarantee a majority of people who would check out his stand-ups wouldn't find him a comedian at all, because he kind of branches into what is known as anti-humour. So yeah, take that as you will, but he's my favourite comedian technically. I've seen him perform at Manchester. Here's a photo of me with him. Yep. And I just really like him. He's just totally my sense of humour. But obviously I know it's a character, it's Greg Turkington, who's appeared on a lot of Adult Swim related things. He works specifically a lot with Eric out of Tim and Eric as well, so you might know him from that. But yeah, anyways, so I have a bunch of Neil Hamburger CDs. So first off, there's Great Phone Calls. This one is kind of predating the Neil Hamburger character. It's got his name in it, but it's not really a lot to do with the character that he later develops, because, well, his voice isn't there. And you're thinking, his voice, what does that matter? Well, that's part of the humour, you know. He's the anti-comedian. He's technically a shit comedian, but that's what makes him funny. I suppose like Tommy Cooper, in a way, you know, he balances rubbish with also some sort of actual talent at the same time. And with Neil Hamburger, his talent is for being just ridiculously offensive and just complete trash and exploitive. But, you know, that's the character. But the voice, like I say, he's got like a kind of a normal voice in this, but later on he develops this sort of nasal voice, which is purposely annoying, because that's his character, you know. He likes to be annoying. So if you aren't in on the joke, and you know that he's a character, you kind of laugh at not only his voice, but you're also laughing at the audience's reaction, who really don't like him. There's a great live album that I have on record called Hot February Night, and that is the main Neil Hamburger related project I recommend. Anyone should listen to that, because the joke isn't so much the jokes he's telling, but the audience's reaction, and it's just amazing. But I'll talk about that if I ever do a record collection, but you've got to check out Hot February Night, look it up on YouTube. But anyways, rambling too much here. It's great phone calls, is literally just prank phone calls that he's done. So yeah, they're funny, but not really the Neil I'm looking for. We'll kind of get a bit more of what we expect from Neil here in America's Funny Man. And this is definitely a lot more developed in terms of the main. Oh, look at that, it says made in Canada. Hell yeah, didn't I just notice that there. So this is definitely developing his humour that he kind of keeps later on, but I think what makes this really funny is that this is kind of a satire, just an overall parody of comedy CDs. So the actual CD itself involves skips and jokes being totally cut out, and audiences' reactions being totally cut out and stuff like that. So that's basically it's a quintessential Neil album. And this is more to do with Neil's performances. This is raw Hamburger. Bear in mind, everybody, parental advisory. This is raw Hamburger. Neil Hamburger at his rawest. So make sure you don't have any children or people who are offended around when you're playing this, because you can tell by this guy he's one mean motherfucker. Yeah, so this is really good. This is really funny. Again, it's not actual live performances, but it develops his sort of humour. There's a lot of some of my favourite Neil jokes are on this. And he also does a cover of She Sits Among the Cabbages and Peas, and that's really strange. But yeah, recommend this. But out of the 4 records that are owned by Neil Hamburger, this is the main one I recommend, which is called Left for Dead in Malaysia. So this is basically the theme of this. Neil Hamburger has a terrible manager, and he makes him do a performance in I think either a tiki or some sort of casino bar in Malaysia. And so while he's attempting to actually perform some sort of stand-up, no one in the audience speaks English, so they're all talking over him and don't understand any of his jokes. So despite that, he still attempts to tell jokes. And eventually, about the second half of the album, it isn't even jokes anymore. He's just rambling about how he hates his life and his divorce and his just failure as a human being. So that's the second half of the album, and that's how it ends. There's even a section where someone actually starts doing karaoke over the top of his jokes. It's really mad, but this is my favourite of the ones that I own. So Neil Hamburger, everybody. But now to talk about some actual music related CDs. So plenty of H's to talk about here. This is Herbie Hancock with Headhunters. Herbie Hancock's a bit of a legend. He's dabbled into disco and funk and jazz. He had a few hits actually in the 80s, but I believe this is a 70s record by him. Has 2 of some of my favourites, just great catchy funky tracks ever made. Watermelon Man and Chameleon Years on here, so can't really go wrong with this. This is just a great listen. So as you can see, this is all from one discography of an artist. Huge fan of him. It's a Beatles member, and it's George Harrison. Yeah, he's just became my favourite Beatles member over the past couple of years, and just the one that I always seem to levitate to whenever I listen to a discography of a solo Beatles catalogue. I don't know why, I've always loved George's music, always thought pretty much everything that he'd done with the Beatles were some of my favourite tracks on the albums that he was featured as a songwriter and performer, vocal wise and such like that. So I've ended up getting pretty much everything that ever exists by George Harrison here. So yeah, absolutely love George. Underrated, I think, his solo discography. There's obviously one album which I'll be talking about which certainly isn't underrated, but the rest of his stuff I think quite is. So first we're talking about Wonderwall music. This is a soundtrack that he done to a nuts 60s psych trip film, which I think is just totally forgotten. One of those things where like the music, the soundtrack for it is way more popular than the film. I think one that goes to mind for me is like Electric Dreams, you know, like the Philip Oakley song. It's just like the film itself has just been completely overlooked. But anyways, yeah, so this is, I believe, mostly instrumental. It's pretty much typical psychedelic rock. This was done in 67 or 68, so proper in the psychedelic phase. A lot of music that's obviously themed around his, I wouldn't say obsession, but his love for music from obviously over in the East. So a lot of great tracks that I really enjoy on here. This bonus track, so he remastered a lot of his stuff here in 2014. It has a bonus track of the instrumental of the Inner Light, which I love. It's one of my favourite Beatles tracks, so that's a joy to listen to. So yeah, a lot of it's really good. I think it's definitely a thing that you have to listen to fully to enjoy, not just pick out random tracks. But I think this is really solid. There's an album that he done which I don't own, but I could get, I suppose, which is where he attempts to do electronic music, and I haven't bothered with that. It's 2 tracks of basically just electronic messing about, which might be interesting for some people, considering it was made, I think, in 1968 or something. I think it's called Electronic Sounds or something. But it's just something that I mean, maybe just to say I've completed my George Harrison collection, but I like to think that the CDs that I own is things that I could pull out and actually listen to, but that one I wouldn't really return to, you know, after maybe one listen, which I have gave it. So maybe I might own it one day, but instead I skip that. But then we'll have All Things Must Pass, definitely the one that I think is certainly not underrated. Many people would say that this is the album that was the best in terms of any album that the Beatles would release after breaking up. And it's up there for me as well. Some of my favourite tracks ever is on this triple album, magnum opus. Oh, my sweet lord, isn't it a pity? What is life? Beware of Darkness, Apple Scruffs, Ballad of Sir Frankie Crisp. I mean, the track All Things Must Pass. So many absolute masterpieces on this. I mean, some of the later tracks, like the sort of jam sessions, obviously is stuff that I don't really listen to too much. I mean, Thanks for the Pepperoni. Who came up with that title track? Like, when they were recording the album, did they order pizza? And they said, oh, thanks for the pepperoni, George. And he went, I'll title this track that. But apart from side D, the rest of it is near on perfect. And pretty much after that, I think most of his catalogue after that is really underrated. So we've got, this was I think the first actually album that I bought by him. I've had a best of lent off my brother for ages, but this was like the first album I actually bought by him, because I was, me being naive, for some reason I thought, because it's called Living in a Material World, I thought that it was like the Madonna song for some reason. Like he's gonna say he's a material girl. Like, no, I don't think George is a material girl. He was far from being material. He's real. Yeah. So yeah, this is pretty underrated. It's got some of my favourite tracks. I mean, his version, if you want to say that, of Living the Material World's a really catchy track. There's a few other tracks which are pretty interesting as well to listen to. For example, there's a one called the Sue Me Sue You Blues, which is just a total angry protest in terms of all of the suing that was going on because of the Beatles breaking up and having songwriting credits and such like that. But my favourite has to be the first track on here, Give Me Love, Give Me Peace on Earth. That might be my favourite George Harrison track. But the whole album is really solid, really recommend it. I'm thinking of other tracks that are on that are really good on here. Ooh. Try Some, Buy Some is really good. That Is All. Don't Let Me Wait Too Long is really nice. I'm not too fond of The Lord Loves the One. It's a bit meandering, but that's the only track that I think isn't that good. And the bonus tracks on this edition as well has the song Bangladesh, which is an also excellent single. I think it's a non-album single, as well as a few other tracks. So yeah, really recommend that. I've always had a soft spot for this next one, which is called Dark Horse. Funnily named because not only was George Harrison definitely the dark horse of the Beatles, but also his voice is very hoarse in it too, because I believe he went on a huge tour and basically tried to make this album just straight off coming off a huge tour, and because of that his voice was really weak. But I think that's what kind of adds a lot of character to this. What is going on with his shoes there? I love them. I would so buy them. Yeah. And so a lot of people just think it's not very good because of his voice, and I don't think his voice is that bad. It doesn't ruin it. He's got a good voice still, I think. So there's a lot of really good tracks on here as well. I love the first track, which is like a nice, really instrumental. Simply Shady's really good. So Sad, I love that track as well. Ding Dong, Ding Dong, a random Christmas tune's pretty good. Dark Horse, the song's pretty good. But this album has Far East Man, which, again, one of my favourite George Harrison tunes. So I still really recommend this. But maybe not the first one to get, but still. So the next one is Extra Texture, read all about it. This is called Extra Texture because if you look, it's all embossed, the whole thing. Pretty cool. And it's probably the one that I've looked over too much by him. I haven't really listened to this. I think I've only heard this maybe once or twice. I know the track You, for example, and the song, what was it? I'm trying to remember. This Guitar Can't Keep From Crying is pretty good as well. But this is definitely the one that I've looked over too much. But I'll have to listen to it again. But oh, there's a song on here called His Name Is Legs, Ladies and Gentlemen, and I'm just like, very, very weird song that. But yeah, I'll have to listen to this a bit more to get more opinions on it. But I still seem to recall enjoying it quite a bit. And then we'll get into the 2004 editions, because that's like his early career. So we've got 33 and a Third, and this has a lot of really good tracks on here. Woman Don't Cry For Me, Beautiful Girl, True Love, See Yourself, and Cracker Box Palace, which is a really good music video as well as being a really good song. I love this album as well. This is a self-titled George Harrison. This is like soft rock really, so I suppose if you like your Fleetwood Mac, I would recommend this. Again, some of my favourite tracks on here. Not Guilty, which is a song that he done in the White Album sessions, which is really good. Blow Away is an amazing song, one of my favourites by him. Soft Touch. Here Comes the Moon, that's a really catchy tune too. Yeah, another really good album by him. And Fast is on here as well. Really enjoy. Somewhere in England. So I know the main popular song on here, at least the one that most people would take from it, is All Those Years Ago, which was made in ode to John Lennon's passing. But there's other few tracks that I seem to remember that I did enjoy quite a bit. There's a one called Teardrops, which is quite underrated, I think, as well. And there's a song on Writings on the Wall, which I quite like. But definitely, again, one that I need to give a few more listens to get a firmer opinion. And now I'm going to be talking about a one that is a bit more near and dear to me, Gontropo. Most people really just don't think much of this, but I really enjoy this album, and it's very tropical. It's as the name suggests, I suppose, and it's very breezy and light-hearted. And sometimes that can mean that an artist is just really boring, but other times I think they just make something which is quite serene. And this is the album for me. It's miserable outside, but the past couple of days have actually been really warm and hot outside, so I've been actually sunbathing to a few tracks on here. My favourites, the song Gontropo. I love the song. I really love you. It's like this dodgy doo-wop song, but I really enjoy it. There's a song on here called Grease, which is amazing. Can't recommend that song enough. Love, love, love that song. Mystical One, Unknown Delight, Circles, which again was originally supposed to be a Beatles song. Yeah, I really enjoy this album, and I think it is very, very underrated. But this is where George Harrison kind of got a lot more popular with this album. Cloud 9 has a lot of his sort of biggest hits actually that he ever made. The song Cloud 9 is big. This Is Love. Of course, the songs like Got My Mind Set on You, which is really big. When We Was Fab was really big. Yep, really good album. If you like, I think Jeff Lynne plays quite a bit on here because this is sort of around his Travelling Wilburys days. So yeah, I think this is really solid pop rock. What else have I got here? Alright, well, of course there's Brainwashed, his last album, which again has the song Brainwashed. Any Road is also an amazing song. Again, can't recommend this album enough. This is just an absolute essential album, basically, if you're into your Beatles solo albums. One of the best ones that was ever made. Randomly, I've got the Concert for Bangladesh. Ravi Shankar plays a lot on here, and he's on the song Bangla Dun, which is probably one of the main highlights on this whole concert. But Ringo appears on here too, Billy Preston, Bob Dylan appears on here, and there's some really good versions of both his solo material and Beatles material that's on here too. This is a classic live album. And randomly, I've also got Live in Japan. This was quite a hard one to find because unless you bought the whole 2004 box set, this is the only way you can actually own this, but I randomly saw it on eBay, so pretty happy I copped that. Yep, Live in Japan. This was done around the late 80s, and again, really solid live album. So that's it for the George Harrison collection. I pretty much own everything that I need. I used to own a best of by the Best of the Dark Horse years, which had like 1 or 2 tracks which only was singularly on that release. But I sold that. Just I didn't feel like owning something where I'm only getting 2 quality tracks that I need. So I ripped that CD, kept those 2 tracks, and apart from that, I think the only thing that I still think I should get is a thing which was like a volume 1. They never made a volume 2 or anything like that, of like demos and outtakes which were done. Well, at least volume 1 was done around the sort of All Things Must Pass era. So yeah, I think I might get that one day. But yeah, that's my George Harrison collection. Alright, so moving on from that, we're going to talk a bit about Helloween, which, a bit like Blind Guardian, is the quintessential power metal group that most people go to when getting into that subgenre. I've mentioned before, I'm a bit funny with power metal, but it's sort of winning me over eventually, getting more and more into it. So this is like a sort of box set, because this has Keeper of the Seven Keys, parts 1 and 2, so pretty cool there, yeah. And I haven't really listened to part 2 that much because I've owned part 1 on record vinyl for quite a while, so that's the one that I've listened to most. I know that's got I'm Alive, Twilight of the Gods, which is 2 really good tracks on there. Follow the Signs, great as well. Future World 2 is pretty catchy. So yeah, I can't really form an opinion on part 2, I'll have to give that more of a listen. So yeah, but part 1, really good. What else we got here? Oh yeah, so I've got a little EP by Heavenly. This is called Add a Girl. This is like power pop, twee pop, I suppose, but really solid little EP. Title track, just really good as well. Yeah, this is, just like I said, just a short little project, but really recommend that if you like twee pop, Bell and Sebastian, you know, sort of stuff like that. Tim Hecker, so this is a Radio Amore. So Tim Hecker, sort of ambient artist. This is kind of a bit more drony ambient as well. So this is pretty mechanical, pretty nocturnally sounding. So if you like this sort of slower Aphex Twin, I can't see why you wouldn't enjoy this. But I know Virgins are supposed to be really good by him. In fact, I think there's a lot of albums that he's done that are supposed to be really highly regarded, but for now this is actually the only one that I've heard, but I'll get around to listening to more of his stuff later. Oh man, yeah, Jill Scott-Heron, Pieces of a Man, this is a brilliant album. This is, I mean, he's a legend in himself in just so many different things, but this is actually the only album I've heard by him, but this has some of his biggest tracks ever. The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. Oh, Home Is Where the Hatred Is, one of my favourite tracks ever. There's the title track as well. There's so many great tracks on here. Lady Day and John Coltrane's really good too. The Prisoner's a massive epic too. Yeah, man, Jill Scott-Heron and Pieces of a Man, just absolutely essential. Soul music, funk music, very political. He was very political as an individual anyways. But yeah, I need to get more into Jill Scott-Heron. And also another black artist who is a total legend, and is very, means a lot to me. Got me into so much music and just got me into psychedelic rock, got me into a lot of things. Jimi Hendrix. So I've owned these CDs here for nearly a decade now. For some reason, I have no idea where Electric Ladyland's gone, which is a shame because, again, one of the first CDs I ever owned. I think I passed my year 9 SATs, so I think I was like 13, and I remember going to HMV and my dad said, as a present for doing well, you can get any CD you want. And I saw Electric Ladyland and it was £20. I still remember that, £20 for a CD. Jesus, that's 10 years ago now. And he was like, "Come on then, I'll get you that then." And absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. And then I ended up just trying to get as much Jimi Hendrix as I could get. I went down the avenue of owning bootlegs and stuff, and I just decided, not bother with that. So yeah, don't know where Electric Ladyland's gone, but never mind. So for now, here's Are You Experienced, the debut, and 17 tracks on here, and pretty all of them are classics. Foxy Lady, Red House, oh, I Don't Live Today is clatchy, May This Be Love, Fire's amazing, Third Stone from the Sun, I used to love listening to that, just chilling on bed, just dreaming away listening to that. Remember, Hey Joe, the title track, Purple Haze, 51st Anniversary, The Wind Cries Mary, Highway Child, yeah man, brilliant. Also brilliant, Axie's Bold as Love. This was my summer album for absolutely ages. Love this pretty much as much. So Up From the Skies, Spanish Castle Magic, one of my favourites. If 6 was 9, you'll know that if you've watched the film Easy Rider. Little Wing, beautiful song. You Got Me Floating, one of my favourites. Castles Made of Sand, one of my favourites. One Rainy Wish, one of my favourites, man. It's just, that's Jimi Hendrix for you. Yeah, so Electric Ladyland, I mean, there's no point in talking about it too much, but that's one of my favourite albums ever. So it's a shame that it's not about here, but that has some of my absolute favourite songs too. But Burning of the Midnight Lamp has always been my pick for favourite Jimi Hendrix song, and one of my favourites ever, probably top 10. But yeah, Voodoo Child, the like extended 15-minute epic, one of my favourites ever. Slight Return version, one of my favourites ever. Yeah, I could go on for ages, but that's Electric Ladyland. So what I also own, which is the only one that kind of done in the CD DVD sort of set back in, when was it, 2010? Oh well, so it must have been 2010 when I got these. Is a album called First Rays the New Rising Sun. So this is as close to a proper posthumous album that he ever made. That was as close to sounding like an album that you could make. because there's a few singles and stuff that were properly finished on here that I believe were released as singles as well, like the song Angel and Freedom as well. And again, there's a lot of great tracks on here, despite not technically being fully finished. I love Freedom, Isabella, Nightbird Flying, Angel, Roomful of Mirrors. There's a song called Easy Rider on here as well. Drifting, I love. Stepping Stone, brilliant too. Yeah, Astro Man, if you want to hear a superhero song by Jimi Hendrix, it's here. And for now, at least, the only other related Jimi Hendrix thing I own, and I got this in the 2 for $5 at That's Entertainment yonks ago, is Band of Gypsies. So a live album, but all of the tracks on here are originals, so not on other studio albums. So it makes it that more interesting to listen to. And all I'll say is Machine Gun. Listen to that, man. Machine Gun. One of the best riffs ever made, especially from, what was it, 1970 this was done? Crazy. So, Jimi Hendrix, absolute legend. Need I say more? Moving on, this is a way more modern album. Julia Holter with Have You in My Wilderness. Heard a lot of good things about this artist, and this was the one that I picked up because it was the most modern album at that time when I tried to get into music. And this is kind of like dream pop, art pop, and even a bit ethereal wave, which, if you know me, I like that. So really, she's got such a lovely soothing voice and just extremely well constructed and just great songs on here. My favourite probably is Silhouette, but I love a lot of tracks on here. So, you know, if you like your chamber music, I really couldn't recommend this enough. If you like just chilled out music, but as well as that, you could use it as some sort of album to listen to with headphones and get a lot out of it too. Yeah, this is really, really good. Yeah, Hot Snakes. So these guys are sort of noise rock, I suppose, a bit punk music to them too, but they've got a pretty good sense of humour. This is the only Hot Snakes album that I've actually heard, so I only got this really because I've heard that all of the albums that they've done, like, they never made a bad album, but this is the reason why I picked this one up, was just because I like the album cover. So yeah, don't quote us on what I think of other albums by them, but I did really enjoy this. The title track, first track, Brain Trust, Highlights, Hatchet Job. Yeah, this is really good. Right, and it doesn't seem I can go very far into my videos that I made on my channel without talking a bit about Imogen Heap. So of course I'm going to be talking about her here. Talked about her a lot on previous videos, but yeah, speak for yourself. You should know by now that I love this. Man, Headlock, Hide and Seek, Clear the Area, The Walk, Just for Now. Just some of my favourite pop songs that have been ever made. Have You Got It In You, man? Just brilliant. I love Imogen Heap. I saw her last year as well at the Sage in Gateshead, and she was fantastic. Can't recommend her enough, seriously, if you like your pop music. And I also own the second album by her too, Lips, which again, really good too. First Train Home, Little Bird, Between the Sheets is on here as well. 2-1, Canvas. Yeah, this is also really good. I need to listen to the third album that's released too. I've heard a few tracks on there and really enjoyed what I heard. So I need to get around to listening to the third album by her, but at least I can vouch and say that Lips and the other album that she made, the debut album, just extremely essential if you like your art pop. But now we're going to go back in time with Buddy Holly. So I suppose I could own some albums by Buddy Holly as a standalone artist and what he'd done in the Crickets, but I've always owned this best of, and for some reason whenever I see the album cover, it just hits us. I love that. So it's really called 20 Golden Grace, but just saying that is just like pretty impactful, and all 20 songs are brilliant. I'm not even that much of an avid listener to 50s music, but I won't deny that Buddy Holly was a genius. Died way too young, and just the music that he did bring out was just totally magic. So yeah, 20 tracks on here, all of them are stellar. That'll Be the Day, Peggy Sue, Words of Love, Every Day, one of my favourites. Maybe Baby, one of my favourites ever. Heartbeat, love that track as well. It's So Easy as well. Wishing, that's a brilliant track too. Yeah, well, I mean, this compilation's great, but just get anything by Buddy Holly if you haven't really tried too much by him. You can't go wrong. Okay, this isn't really in my CD collection. I just found this out and about in the conservatory because I thought it's worth talking about. It had a pretty big, impactful part on when I was getting into music. Anyone remember the Humungous? Yeah, might be one of those bands that you like, oh, I forgot that song existed. Talking about songs like Worried About Ray, Goodbye Mr. A, Cops and Robbers, especially those 3 tracks. Yeah, I never really got into the whole album as such, but those 3 tracks I used to absolutely love. And for some reason it always makes us think of bands like MGMT, I don't know why. I always kind of put them in that sort of vein. But yeah, I'm just shouting these guys out because the Whosies, you might have forgotten about them. And those 3 songs that I mentioned, give them a listen and you'll be like, oh, I forgot those existed. Because you don't really hear them on the radio that much, but they were big, I remember, when they were new. So the final album we're going to be talking about, everybody, is Ben Howard, a very, very contemporary artist, and someone that I've very, very been recently getting into. I've got a very good friend who's called Orton, who recommended a song by him called End of the Affair, which I think is on the 2nd album he made called, I forget Where We Were, I think it's called. And literally a couple of days or something after he recommended, and I really loved that track, I went into a charity shop and I found the recent album that he made for £1. So I was like, oh my god, I've got to listen to this. And again, I've really only been giving it a couple of listens, but I've been really enjoying it. So it's got like sort of psychedelic folk elements to it, a bit ambience to it as well, but it's a really good singer-songwriter album overall, and you know, just really enjoying it. And I'm gonna have to definitely go back and get the first couple of albums that he made. I've went back and I've listened to a few tracks off the debut, which I think are really good, but especially because of the song End of the Affair and the title track, I forgot Where We Were. I've got to get that album, especially because I love those songs. So there you go, everybody. That is me done for another edition of my CD collection, ABBA to ZAPPA. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Yeah, so I am going to be talking about I later on. You dig? I. Ah! Kill me.
Thanks for listening.